and today we thought we'd do an Ask Us Anything. Questions about farming and ranching in Montana, questions about milling in our milling room, growing the wheat and flour, the 1889 cabin, we can talk about that, the Airbnb on the place. It's an Ask Us Anything. We got some questions online, so I've written them down, and we'll tackle those first. But anyone who jumps into the stream, feel free to ask us questions as we go.
So,
Yeah. So one of the first ones we got.
now, before we say that,
Oh, we should talk about that.
why we're doing a live stream.
Yes.
We released the video last week on milling flour, and we happened to be out of town on Saturday when it released, and we found out really quickly that a lot of you guys wanted to buy our flour. And needless to say, all week this week we have been milling, packaging, and shipping. We know the ladies at the post office very well.
Yeah.
Every day, 30 to 40 packages to you guys that have bought flour from us has gone out. And we've been so busy, we just figured there's no way we're going to get a video out this week. So we're so thankful, absolutely so thankful for you guys
And we're working.
supporting.
I think we've gotten half the orders out, which is awesome, and we're just working our tails off to get the rest done. So Robbie, about a minute ago, was pure white.
We're still working.
Yeah. So he just took the air compressor, blew off his face, so he looks not like he's about to die.
Yeah, presentable.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so one of the first questions people asked is, how do we deal with timing on the ranch when it comes to hay, cattle, all of that? You know, if you live on land, you'll know there's times of the year when it's just all hands on deck, peak work, and then there's times of the year where things slow down, and that's true for us. And we're about to kick off seeding season.
All spring work, fixing fence, the winter, trees blowing down, seeding, getting equipment ready. That's why this tractor's in the shop right now. The biggest thing for us, being a farmer, living on the land,
Hi from Chile. That's awesome.
way.
Hi guys.
our biggest deal is you have to be flexible. You have to, on a whim, you have to go out at 5 in the morning to load a hay truck because the ground's froze. You have to be able to, at 4:30, right before dinner in the middle of summer, you have to drive out to put cows in because they broke the fence down. You have to be able to be there, be flexible, and you have to say, my priority is this land and is the animals. And if that priority is great, but it sacrifices your family. So in the winter, Jessie makes fun of me, I sleep in.
He hibernates.
I hibernate. In the winter, I'm pretty slow. In the summer, if I can be out of the house before the sun comes up and get home before the sun, after the sun comes down, that's kind of the standard
I
day
think
for me.
you operate on about 5 hours of sleep in the summer
But
every day.
if you're busy, you're not tired, sort of thing. So
New York City, that's awesome. Oh, you can't hear us very well. Maybe we need to
Okay.
stand closer. Bad
Talk
sound.
louder.
Thanks, guys.
talk louder. I wonder if it says your speaker.
Oh yeah, maybe.
We don't know.
Maybe we'll. Okay, tell us if this gets it better. Okay. All right. So yes. So farming on the ranch, timing, spring, all of that is going on. And for me, I grew up on land, and we had Texas Longhorns, but I wasn't involved in day-to-day agriculture. So marrying into a family that is a real farming family, it's been a big adjustment for me how flexible you have to be. They say it's worse. Worse sound.
Hear anything?
That's mute. I
Ah,
can barely hear you. Huh. Okay, Robbie's gonna do tech support.
orientation is locked. Okay.
How'd you manage that?
That one? No.
Australia. Oh, awesome. You can hear us.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Your mics on your body aren't working. We do not have mics on.
Don't
our
have
body.
mics because we don't know how to hook up our fancy camera. Florida's fine too. Thanks, Rebecca. New Jersey, that's awesome. Yeah, technology, I hear ya. It pushes us to our limits. Nebraska, cool.
Jessie gets to do all the editing and shipping, so she is our tech person.
Yeah.
I don't do anything with computers but once a year for health insurance. So
Well, and all the computers and equipment now. That's been a huge learning curve. Maine, so cool. So yeah, seasonality on the ranch, learning to be patient. I'm an only child, so I'm kind of used to doing what I want when I want it. And you marry into a farm family and you do whatever you need to do that day, and you don't know what it is till you start the day. So yeah.
And thankfully with phones, you get a call. Before you didn't have cell phones, and so you only called home phones and people worked it through. Now with cell phones, the neighbors can get a hold of you at any moment. Buyers, whoever can get a hold of you, and you're just even more tied to it, it seems,
Yeah.
than you were before.
Yeah. So we're learning the technology side, but like we said, if you ordered flour, we're getting it out to you as fast as we can do it. That's why we did a live today instead of filming at the cabin, because that is hours and hours of editing, and I'd rather be packaging up flour and shipping it out. So, oh good, you got your recipe box. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Hi from Iowa, Arizona. Very cool, guys. Okay, so let's see. We got questions that people left on our post. So we got a good one from J&J that says, what's the history in Montana with religion? Because this is a big one. I don't think people think about this as much, but a lot of those pioneers, when they came west, they were very religious. But this is a remote place, so having a priest to say mass or a reverend to do a service was very rare. And so a lot of people pretty much did religion with their friends, their family, their very small community. But when they could, they went to a proper church. And in our town, in Lewistown, we actually have one of the most beautiful churches in all of Montana. I'd say it beats the cathedral that's in Billings. And I think that speaks to the fact that people felt it was very, very important to have a religious building and to get together with their community to worship God. And so, yeah, you would think maybe they just did it in their houses and they didn't care, but they spent a lot of their hard-earned money to build churches.
And to go on top of that, especially in Lewistown, Montana was settled, like a lot of America, by immigrants. We had a lot of Eastern European, Croatians, Yugoslavians, Czechs, a lot of stonemasons. So two of the churches in town, a Presbyterian and an Episcopal church, are hewn stone.
Yes.
And they are gorgeous churches.
No one could build those again today.
Not at all.
The tradesmen, the craftsmen, that skill has been lost.
And the proportions of the churches are perfect. It's storybook kind of churches.
Yeah.
The Catholic Church was built in 1916, and it's a brick church, and it's
Hey neighbor.
100 and some feet tall. So it's impressive in its own right as far as it being made entirely of brick. And we've actually been up in the top of the Catholic Church.
Yes.
And they have steel girders that are riveted. You can see where they hot riveted, or I don't know if it's hot riveted.
Yeah.
But where they riveted everything. So
yeah, there's some interesting traditions.
And one last thing on the religion too, is as far as celebrating, I know with the Catholic side of stuff, the feast days, people would focus on the feast days as well.
Yeah.
More so than, I mean, they obviously worried about any Sunday obligation, but there's certain times of the year that were a lot more important, that they would make an effort to get together.
Yeah, and a huge part of that is you're so remote in the West that any chance to come together with your community and celebrate something meaningful, you rode your horse in for that, because most of your life was spent very, very alone if you were ranching or farming on the land.
And one more thing, these just keep coming in. In Montana too, and it still happens, it happens with our Catholic church in another town that we share a priest with. The churches, the Catholic, and I don't know what other denomination, they share the same building. And so a long time ago, whether or not you were Lutheran, Presbyterian, Methodist, Episcopal, Catholic, if you could have one space to worship, you might have different times, but people kind of out here, you maybe put some of those more intricate details aside, and you worship more together than you did as towns got bigger. So
Grandma is on the chat, and Maggie and George, they're just over at
no
the
way.
house with Grandma. And Maggie and
Can you-
George say hi to everybody.
Maggie and George, can you hear us fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
We tried to
that's
get
fine.
them to come be on the live because Maggie dressed both of them in their proper cowboy clothes today. So maybe they'll come on later and we'll get to say hi to the kids.
Okay.
Okay, one other thing I'll say on religion is Robbie's Catholic, and I converted to Catholicism before I met Robbie. So I grew up Protestant and then evangelical and converted on my own in my 20s. So, you know, there's like depths when it comes to religion, and it's a very important part of our lives, and I think it was very important to homesteaders and pioneers out here. It's something that the modern world often doesn't really understand, but it's a big deal. Okay, next question. Let's see, we covered cattle and hay, Catholic. Okay, let's see, how did we start milling? Laura was asking that. Did we start small with a home mill and kind of get a feel for fresh flour? You know, how did that story work? But I think we should go into the milling room to talk about it. So we're gonna walk away from the tractors and we're gonna go into, this is the clean room that we built here inside the larger shop. And you'll see it's very dusty, but it is clean in the sense that there's no farm animals, no cats, none of that. Okay, let me see if I can set you guys down. You let me know if you can hear us, okay? Okay, cool.
You can read that.
Oh, awesome. There's people doing sourdough, pumpkin pie. Very cool, you guys. This is very cool. Okay, so this is the mill. Robbie's actually got it taken apart. This is kind of cleaning day. It's important you take it apart quite a lot.
Yeah, out of nervousness, and when we switch between the Durham and the wheat, you're still learning, and for me, I need to see something and visualize it and see if that adjustment has correlated.
Well, and we're always worried because we're using natural stones. We want to keep an eye on them because if for any reason they're grinding on each other, that can instantly ruin this mill.
Yeah.
But back to that question of did we start small with a home mill? I have a lot of friends who grind flour at home with small mills. I even have friends who use coffee grinders to grind up wheat. And no, that is not how we started. That would have been the smartest way we could have started. But like most things in my life, I get a harebrained idea and then I just go 100 miles an hour straight into it. And so, no, I had never ground flour in my life, and we ordered a $14,000 mill from the Ukraine, and that's how we started. So, you know, maybe not the smartest, but
With flour milling too, even if you go on to YouTube and you watch these giant, they got these 4-foot, 5-foot diameter millstones. Milling flour is a very slow process, and so for us thinking commercially, anything smaller was never going to work. Anything as far as, and so we talked about it briefly, and we're like, you know what, let's save that little bit of money. This thing is so beautiful.
yeah.
That
Make sure, leave some comments so we know if this is working, okay?
this thing is so beautiful in itself. We took the risk of buying it, but
You guys have a closer look.
there are places in Montana that would love to have this in a bakery. So for us to resell it was not as big of a worry. But yes,
Yeah.
we took a gamble. We took a pretty big.
Yeah, it was a financial risk for sure. I mean, we can't just burn that kind of money, but yeah, we knew that it was something of if we're gonna bother to mill the flour, we wanted to mill enough for our family, our friends, you know, and hopefully our community. And that's proven to be pretty great because we're able to have a big enough mill we can share it.
Yep. And I will add one more thing.
Oh, cat.
The cats are interested. They watch through
Barn
the
cat.
window. The cats are outside.
Yeah.
They know we're in here, and they will watch through the window just like, what's this special place?
We'll look out the window in the milling room and there will just be a cat, just hoping we leave
Or
that
on
door
the
open.
hillside outside.
Yeah, yeah.
But
The other thing with the milling the flour, and this is more of me than her, is this came with the sifter. And our sifted flour, Jessie can trick me into eating. So she doesn't have to trick me, it's wonderful, I love it. But the whole wheat, if you grind flour at home,
Yeah.
oftentimes if you're not, depending on what you're thinking, you might use it all whole wheat and it can kind of taste.
Which is the
Yes,
best,
it
most
is.
nutritious
It
way to eat wheat. Like
But for
we should,
picky eaters, for people who are very picky,
well, we should all be eating
Yep.
whole wheat, because that has the bran, the germ oil, the endosperm, it has all of it. That's what we should do. But yes, I have a white bread, McDonald's hamburger kind of guy, and so if he'll eat the sifted, you know what, that's good enough for me. I'll start there.
Yeah.
And for me too, I do a lot of baking of pie crusts and biscuits and things where you just want them lighter. And so that's what sifting is able to do for us. It doesn't take out all the nutrition, you still get the germ oil.
there's
but
little bits of bran that still get pulverized enough through the stone. The stone, by stone milling, you're not able to separate that super
Yeah.
well. So, here, where's our next question?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, Calvin, it's
Yeah.
on the way. I'm working. And yeah, 406 region, these are our neighbors. We gave them a bag of flour and they gave us some lamb. So that's kind of the spirit of, yeah, small farms in Montana, right? Okay, let's see, what other questions do we have? Shauna says, are we sold out of the pain salve that Dixie makes? And what are our favorite things about the cabin? So yes, at the moment, because of that big influx from the last episode, we got cleaned out of the tallow paint salve, but Dixie went out and filmed actually in February, picking cottonwood buds off of the trees. This time of year, they have these buds and it's a crucial ingredient in this paint salve. So pretty soon, we're gonna be making more and we'll have it up. It is really good stuff. We've sent it all over, even to Wales, to our good friend in Wales, and she loves it, so that always feels good. Let's see. Oh, you've been grinding your own flour for years. That's right, Colin. Yeah, you know your stuff. I am new at this. Robbie is new at this.
Yep.
But I will say it's you get into a big enough mill with complicated elements, and there's a reason why people had careers as millers, and they had the surname Miller, because it's not just like you flip a switch. You have to have a lot of knowledge, and so it's been a learning curve.
You have to have knowledge of the plant, you have to know how the plant grew, how the kernel currently is before you mill it, you have to know weather conditions, is it humid, dry,
Yeah, the moisture of your wheat.
you have to know your machinery, you have to know who's gonna be using it,
Yeah.
where's it going, is it fine, is it coarse, is it food, is it animal feed? You have to know all this stuff, and you gotta be encompassed,
Yeah,
in the whole process. So it isn't just turning a switch on, your job is just to pull one lever in and out all day.
right.
You have to know the entirety of growing the crop, milling the crop, and eating the crop,
Yeah,
baking with it, sort of.
right. And we've done a lot of tests and practicing on how much sifting to do, what humidity,
Yeah.
what moisture level the grain should be, and there'll be more to learn. But yeah. So if you guys have other questions too, put them in the chat, because, oh, you got some wheat berries. How do we recommend storing them? So wheat berries are like nature's perfect food. They store naturally for 10 years if you want them to.
In a shaded, cool environment.
Yeah, so keep them out of direct sunlight.
Yep,
Don't let it get hot, cold, hot, cold.
don't let moisture, it should be a fairly dry area.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So like not in a root cellar, that wouldn't be a good spot. It's dark, but it's too wet. Probably an attic or something is historically how those would have been stored. I know that I've heard people say if you have fresh milled flour, you can store it in your freezer, and that helps to keep it. Because of course, fresh milled flour, because it has natural oils in it, it's not like the grocery store stuff where, yeah, you can leave that stuff on your counter for like a year, and it's not gonna go bad. That's because it doesn't have all that much nutrition in it. So this flour, it's not gonna go bad quickly. We haven't done a lot of tests on it. Mostly we eat it as soon as
yeah,
we mill it.
yeah.
So I can't say for sure how long it would last, but yeah, if you're in a humid, hot environment, you should probably store it in the freezer. I think that's
Yeah,
good advice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as the freezing, on farms, grain sits out in grain bins, year after, it can sit year after year, and it can get to -40.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that-
true. That's true.
The temperature, so as far as freezing grain, you should be just fine with
Well, and
that.
what's the grain? Your parents have grain in a bin.
We have
They-
barley that we grind for our chickens and cows and other animals that we grew about, I was in college, and we'll see how long ago that was,
That was a long time ago.
but long enough ago, and it's still, for animal feed, they love it.
Yeah.
Um,
So they grind.
Yep,
For
and it
chickens,
hasn't
chickens,
sprouted, it
pigs.
hasn't gone bad, it hasn't molded, it's just, it's nature's way of, moving on. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on, next question.
Do we have an Airbnb? Have we talked about that yet?
Not
No.
today.
Okay, so yes, we do have an Airbnb on the ranch. It's one of our side hustles to try and keep the family place going. Because we've talked about that in past episodes that, you know, to just farm and ranch the same amount of acreage that your parents or your grandparents ranched, you won't make a living anymore. You're gonna be outcompeted by the market, and that's just a reality of life. So you gotta find ways to connect with people. And the Airbnb that we built, how many years ago?
21, we cut the trees in 21.
So yeah,
We built
Robbie,
in 22, we had our first guest in 23.
yeah, Robbie cut all the trees for the logs, and Robbie and I hauled every piece of stone for a natural stone foundation, and we mixed sand we dug from the site to make the lime and sand chinking between the logs. So it was a real labor of love to build it. It took a couple of years. We've had guests in it for now a couple of years, and it's been a really neat experience. You can find it on Airbnb if you're ever coming through the middle of nowhere. But it's a beautiful getaway with just nothing else in sight. It's on one of the edges of the ranch, up on a divide, so you can really see out into the valley where Lewistown is, and it's something that's very special to us. It is a ton of work in the summer.
You don't get rich off Airbnbs.
Yeah, to anyone who,
No.
I, going into it, was of course thinking I would just, you know, instantly have great easy income. It's not like that at all. And again, we don't have employees, so I clean it myself, and it is a ton of work in the summer, and summertime is when everything else happens too. So yeah, it's really fun. It's a great way to connect with people. I love that side of it. I studied design and I worked in design, and so for me to get to layer in this cabin with historic elements and kind of high design, I really, really enjoyed that part of it. And sharing that with people is special to me. So I'm gonna read your comments down here. But that was a big part of the fun for me, was the building it and the laying it out, and then those years of getting to meet people with it. But yes, to anyone who's thought maybe I'll do an Airbnb, or if you have a ranch and you think, hey, that's a good extra income, it is, but you work really hard for it. Like anything in life, you're gonna work really hard for it. Hi from New Jersey, very cool. What is the title for the listing? So it is called The Log House, Montana, and it's in Lewistown. So if you search Lewistown, it will come up. It's on the divide. So.
Also, we skipped a part on the Payne Sap. It said, what is your favorite part of the cabin?
Oh
And
yeah,
I think we're talking about about Uncle Dan's.
yeah. We laugh when people say cabin. There's more than one on the ranch. There's the
Jess-
Airbnb.
Jessie lived in a cabin by herself, so there's that cabin that people know her from.
Canada,
Um,
Plain.
There's Uncle Dan's that Jessie cooks in, and then there's the Airbnb cabin. We don't own the one that Jessie lived in when she was single, but so people in town will say the cabin, and we don't know which cabin they are referring to, because there's been multiple cabins that come and go in our life, so.
And people
That's
have
right.
requested that I talk more about that, because I won't go into too much today because I don't want to bore you, but I spent my 20s, pretty much all of my 20s after I went to school, and I worked in LA in design, and I hated it. I hated every minute of that. And so I moved to the middle of Montana, I mean even more remote than this, and I restored an 1860s hewn log cabin in a valley with almost no neighbors, very, very remote, completely by myself alone. You know, I would hire a little bit of help. But I had a lot of adventures, basically going from a 20-something who knew absolutely nothing and getting myself into a lot of trouble with floods and animals and trying to figure out how to build. You know, I just didn't know what I was doing. And I had adventures. I would hike in the winter and, you know, negative 20 degrees, blowing wind. No one would ever be able to find me or help me if anything went wrong. And I needed that. So a lot of people around here got to know me as far as I was the crazy hermit who lived out in a cabin by herself. So that was my identity before I met Robbie.
Okay, so we're going back to the question. Favorite part of Uncle Dan's? For me, it's the windows, because I spent my entire life out here and I never saw a window in the building.
Hold on. Yeah, Becky, send the kids over. Send them over.
Perfect. I saw the windows. The windows they make it into what it was before, and I never got to appreciate that. So my favorite part's the windows. Jessie, what's your favorite part about Uncle Dan's? I would guess it's the cook stove, because she doesn't get one at home. But
I do love the cook stove. So, yeah, to tie it back into my first cabin, I cooked exclusively on a cook stove that was about the same age as the one in Uncle Dan's, and that is all I had to be able to cook. And I just learned on the fly. I didn't have anyone really in my family who'd ever used one. That had never happened. So there were generous people who taught me, and that's definitely why I wanted to restore Uncle Dan's, is to have that excuse to bring all my old cookware and all those skills that I spent years building. I could do them again. And where it was just me alone in a cabin and no one ever saw it or knew what I was doing, it's really fun to share it and realize there's people out there who cook on these cook stoves and they understand the art of it and the tradition. And so that has been a very satisfying full circle thing of when I got married and had kids and we, you know, didn't have that cabin anymore because we had to make a living and farm. I thought maybe that part of my life was going to be over. And so it's been very satisfying to have a chance to use those skills again. Yeah.
okay.
But I didn't say my favorite part. I do think the cook stove is one of my favorites, but my absolute favorite part of that cabin doesn't have anything to do with the work we did on it. I just love the proportion. When you look at old buildings, they are so specific in how they're proportioned. They're usually very narrow and they're taller and they have a steep pitch, and just nobody builds that way anymore. People always want to put in bigger windows or, you know, make the pitch a little less steep because it's easier to roof, and you lose the magic. So it's truly magical.
And to finish on that is when
Cool.
buildings were built, those buildings.
Another barn cat.
Yeah, the materials had to be hauled, and so they were limited to how big of a material. Well, today with semis and with engineered trusses and LVL beams and all this stuff.
You were limited to how tall your trees were.
Yep,
And around
yep.
here, you could only have a 20-foot length
Yep.
before the horse couldn't pull it or you couldn't lift it.
Yeah,
And so you're gonna see 20 feet by 12 or 20 feet by 16. They're all pretty much the
Yeah.
same.
yeah,
And windows only came in a few sizes unless you were very wealthy. So all the windows have the same tall, skinny proportion.
and people didn't expect the same entertainment out of their house. Their house was to eat, sleep, and protect them from the elements. It was not to rest, and, I mean, they did rest sort of stuff, but all that.
Hey,
effort
Old
wasn't
Dog
much.
Max.
Okay,
For you guys,
Oh.
Old Dog Max, he leaves the best comments and stories, so I highly recommend you read them.
somebody's here.
Somebody's at our door. Come on in, Magpie.
You can leave your shoes.
can leave your shoes.
Not you, George.
You're wet. No
You
wet
both
shoes
take-
in the living
Yeah,
room.
both take your shoes off.
Here, we'll show you this to the kids.
Say
Come
hi.
on in.
Hey, Maggie and George, say hi.
Hi.
All
That
right.
was Grammy.
Grandma was fun. She's watching us right
Money
now.
bags. We figured that because she was typing on there.
Yeah.
All right, come on
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, Grandma. Are my socks gonna get white?
in. Yeah, they're gonna get covered.
Are you guys gonna
Alright.
really fancy?
George, okay.
Dwayne says, do we have any historical sites in Montana to recommend? We laugh around here. There are always signs on the highway that'll say like, Fort McGinnis, this way, and you'll stop and you'll look, and it's just a giant field of nothing.
Yeah.
And so, historical sites often, like a fort, they were once here, but it's just an empty field because the fort is gone.
But there are some towns, or mostly, so Montana was settled in the western part of the state, kind of first,
Thank you, Dorothy.
through gold mining. So there's a bunch of old towns, Bannock and
Darby, Montana. Hello, very cool. Yeah, there are some neat.
over near Helena, Butte, and that side, you've got the ghost towns, you've got the historical towns.
George, come on back
You
with
are
us.
being goofball.
And
So
even
there are
around-
interesting historical sites in that.
Around
regard.
here, like Lewistown's a beautiful town with brick and stone. But there was actually a bigger town here in Kendall.
Oh,
Kendall
yeah.
Mine, it's all stone ruins, and you'd just
Yes.
never know it was there. But that at one point had a larger population because they had discovered, was it silver? Gold?
Yeah, gold.
But huge amounts of boom and bust mining towns. And so for me, those are the ones I like to visit.
George,
You guys are gonna get kicked
you're
out.
like the cats.
You're like the barn cats. You're just
But
ridiculous.
I wanna like.
Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great.
Does anyone, oh, hi from New Mexico. Does anyone have a question for Maggie? Because Maggie's she's getting into all this. She helps me cook. Is the grain back in stock or done? Back in stock. I'll go check to make sure quantities are there.
We've got
But
plenty
yes,
of it.
we've got plenty of it. We grew, how many pounds did we grow?
It's hard to divert the pounds.
Anyway, many, many thousands.
42,000 pounds. of
42,000
grain.
pounds.
Yep, yep.
There's so much you can't see unless you get out of the truck. Yeah, exactly. Butte with the mining has amazing history. That is true. Montana's a cool place. Very cool. Canada has some neat stone buildings though. I'm always seeing pictures of stone buildings up there. You, sir, should go with your dad. Let's go.
Hey, Mama, I just
Let's
saw.
go. George is now banned. Go on.
Mama, I just saw Dad chase the barn cats.
Let's see, what is your favorite dish that your mom made for you? That's a question for you. What's the best thing that we made in Uncle Dan's?
I would think maybe the I like your desserts that you made. So
Yeah.
maybe yours are so good. I think my favorite of all
Yeah.
is your chicken pot pie.
I love chicken pot pie.
That's my favorite.
That one's pretty good. What about that pumpkin pie we made? Remember where we chopped the pumpkin up with the axe?
Oh, and Mommy, I have some ideas for some new videos.
You do?
Yeah.
You do?
Let's
Okay.
bake.
She's my helper.
But it has to use with your milled flour.
Yes. What do we, at home we have today, we made Rouge de Bordeaux chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah,
Those
That-
turned out
and-
great, but you put enough butter in anything, it's gonna turn out great. And then we also made, this is actually,
Italian.
yeah, it's Italian, and I have not made it on an episode yet, but I'm thinking this week we should do it. We did half Durham, half Rouge, and then I long fermented it as sourdough bread. And the Durham, when I baked it last night, I think I fermented it 2 days. It was a really long ferment. It was so glossy and smooth, and it doesn't rise a ton because of the Durham. Durham doesn't build gluten bonds like that.
Yeah, if you're gonna make pizza, don't use Durham.
Well, you don't want to use pure Durham because it's really chewy.
Yeah, and then your pizza's not gonna get the crunchiness that you want from it. It's just gonna be super.
It'll get the
Soft.
chew.
Yeah. 'Cause
But this
we've had a
bread,
mistake before.
yeah, we have. I've messed up pizza a few times. But this bread that's half Durham is like glossy and smooth and so chewy. It's not crispy, it's chewy. Anyway, I'd like to make it on an upcoming episode. So it says, Maggie, what's your favorite to help with? Bread or cookies or maybe brownies?
We haven't made brownies yet, have we?
We haven't made brownies out there.
Yeah, we have
No.
not.
But Maggie, to answer another question, she's been cooking with me for a long time.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. have your own apron now that Susan sewed for you?
For my birthday.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to make brownies
The
sometime. out
birthday
there.
party was sort of a secret thing.
Germany, that's fantastic. Someone from Germany's watching.
Wow! Wait, do you think you could be Aunt Sarah?
We do. We actually have family in Germany.
Yeah.
Our cousin, well, my Aunt Patty and my cousins Sarah and Anna grew up in Vienna, Austria. And, well, Aunt Patty moved there to marry Uncle Jürgen. And so we have family over there.
Yeah,
Pretty exciting.
you do.
Let's see. Sorry for the heavy topic. How's your fire risk this summer? You know, we've had a weird winter. I think it's been a weird winter for a lot of
It's been
people.
hot, it's been really warm, and then it went like up, down, then went
Yeah.
super hot, then down. It's been a really weird.
Very strange. And a week ago, if we were doing this 1 week ago, we were buried under 2 feet of heavy, heavy wet snow. I mean, almost everything shut down,
Yeah,
and it was a big deal. And then today, outside, there's not a drop of snow left.
Mom, we got
Gone.
can we show them the outside?
I store my wheat in tubs. That's good. Oh, Maggie, people are saying you're doing a great job. Dungeon Minister, awesome. Brownies, Maggie. Do you like fudgy or cakey? I know what I would say.
Fudgy.
You're fudgy, I'm cakey. So it's the family conflict.
What do you think Nana would be?
And Robbie likes them straight out of a box.
Box mix, yeah.
Yep, box mix.
Cause Dad grew up on
Um,
cans of things and
oh, so yeah, do you have Durham wheat berries too, or only flour? That's cool that you use all fresh milk. I was thinking I should offer Durham wheat berries. We could easily do that. We grew it, and we're still in the process of cleaning some of it, so we might run out here soon, because we just have to clean the rest of it. And then once it's clean, I'll put some up for sale if you want to buy it. Durham, I don't know if it's Latin or a different language, but Durham literally means hard. And we have struggled to mill it. It's something that gets Robbie kind of frustrated. Milling Durham, you don't get as good of a yield once it's sifted, and it is really, really hard. So that's the only trick. If you have a good home mill, I'm sure you can do it. But if you're using a coffee grinder or something, I would probably not do Durham. It could probably break some stuff. Let's see, what else do we have here? I want to buy more starters. Yes, I'm going to make more of that. Hi, Sarah. Wow, Blossom. Let's see. February, southern Alberta had summer temperatures. Yeah, it's been a very strange year. As far as fires go, we will have to wait and see. Sometimes Montana is notorious for just shutting off. This is technically an arid, almost desert-like climate. And so last year we got really good rain late into the year, but I bet that's once every 10 years that rain like that happens. I would bet this year we're gonna feel some pain, but we will see. Maggie for the win, yes. Maggie's back out in the shop, but thank you guys for saying hi to her. She loves all the filming and cooking, and she loves to be a part of it. So I think it's good. It's a little family time we spend together. Oh, let's see. Charles, a family homestead at a ranch from northern New Mexico in 1913. That's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Polson, yeah. Polson's a great place. We love to go on family drives and trips. You got your wheat berries, fantastic. Have you made noodles? I have made, it's funny, pasta has the least amount of ingredients. It is literally just an egg and wheat. Like, you don't even have to add water. You would think it'd be so easy to make, but it is tricky. So I've been practicing. I've probably made pasta how many times, Rob?
Three or four times?
Yeah.
4 at least.
And I'm getting better at it. Rolling it thin is the trick. I made it once in Uncle Dan's, and it was okay, but I'm getting better.
We had homemade pasta with the rest of that bison tenderloin.
Yes.
And my mother, who was watching, I don't know if she's still watching or not, absolutely loved it. Everybody loved it. The noodles are so tender.
They're so
Yep.
fresh. I mean, when you mill that flour and then immediately make your noodles, they're so tender. You boil it for like
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah.
That's it.
for some of us, it's like, well, they need to be tougher. You need more bite, but no,
Yeah.
they're absolutely wonderful.
No, I haven't made any sewn dolls yet, but that is on the list. And one part of me just kicks myself for getting us into all these different ideas because I just don't have time. So yeah, that's something I would love to do. And to do braided rugs. We had a question about that, and that is high on my list. And Susan Lohmuller, our friend who comes out and cooks all the time, she says she knows how to do braided rugs. So that might be something that Susan, Maggie, and I do in an upcoming episode.
Funny Susan Miller story. She bought our whole wheat at the grocery store because she is a wonderful supporter.
She went there to
Yep.
buy white and accidentally bought whole wheat.
And so she decided she'd make sugar cookies out of it. And she said they were the best sugar cookies she's ever had. They were interesting.
When she told me she made
Yep.
sugar cookies with whole wheat, I was like, I am so sorry, that was probably rough. And she said, no, she is keeping the recipe forever because it was basically like half graham cracker, half sugar cookie, and she said it was just unreal. So those of you who use fresh milled flour, I'm sure you know what that's like. My granddaughter Maddie is 6. Oh, that's great. She loves to watch Maggie with me Saturday mornings. That is a cool tradition. Well, hopefully next Saturday I will get my act together, I will be out there, and maybe we'll use that Durham to do pizza or an Italian bread.
And Maggie turned 7, so she is
Yes, she
a
just
year
turned
older.
7.
Yep, not by much.
Her birthday is at the end of January, so, yeah. What else do you have? Do you have a favorite food memory from your grandparents?
I'm not allowed to answer that.
I bet it's something processed.
It is Kraft macaroni and cheese. Across the highway from us, when my parents were busy, we'd go over there, and my grandma would cut up Polish and mix them in.
I can beat that.
But I have to say this though, being an adult, and my mom has passed this recipe down was a not hot German potato salad, but it's a vinegar-based potato, green
Sausage.
beans, and sausage
That's my
dish.
favorite thing your mom makes.
Yeah, I
That's
love
my
it.
favorite.
That's
But
a
my-
recipe for
My
my
grandmother recipes, and this is proof that the world is so different. My one grandmother, I never saw her cook, ever. My other grandmother really specialized in Costco chicken sandwiches. You microwaved them in the plastic, I don't know if anyone remembers that, and then you just peel the hot plastic
Oh,
off and you eat the
goodness.
chicken sandwich. So, we didn't grow up with a lot of these old ways, and I think that's why they're so romantic, is because it was just one generation before that where cooking from scratch was how it was done, and that's how you showed your love. And so I want to get back to that, because I can feel the loss. Even though it's not my childhood memory, I still long for it.
And our grandparents were, I hate to say it this way or whatnot, we're young enough that our grandparents were kind of first exposed to more of the industrial,
Yeah.
more of the food the processed foods. So they
And
were
I
excited
think-
that they didn't have to do so
Yeah.
much.
Because they remember their mothers slaving over laundry and cooking, and for the first time, they could just microwave a meal
Yep.
and be done with it. So I can understand why that was so exciting for that generation. But then our generation that grew up with that being the standard is like, wait, I want my food to taste like something.
Yep.
I want to go back. So yeah,
Okay, so funny story.
Gen X, cool.
If my mother's on, she'll
Yeah.
correct me. But my mom remembers when her family first got a microwave. And I think the very first thing they put in the microwave was an egg.
Oh no, what happens?
They explode.
Oh, jeez.
That was their first. So once again, if you're used to always just cooking an egg, you think, you understand the difference in
Yeah.
how people. So,
Yeah.
anyways,
Charles says, how do I become a supporter of the channel? I appreciate that, Charles, I do. I think if you go to the main channel page, it'll say something like join, or, so there's sort of a button you can click, and we really do appreciate channel supporters. We don't offer a lot of channel member only things, but when you're a channel member, you get early access to the videos, and I always try to answer comments from channel members first. Because I feel like, if you're gonna take the time to watch and participate and give us that little bit of extra, we really appreciate that.
and we are always shocked. Even the people commenting now, it's just so surprising that people actually want to pay attention to to us.
Yeah.
So if somebody does that, we are just more than.
I know, I don't think we deserve it, but I will say we're always up to something different and interesting.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah,
She
we have
is.
a lot of fun.
She's up to something different.
I
and interesting, and she
dragged
drives
Robbie
me with-
into a lot
Yep.
of problems. He said his
Yep.
life was so much easier before me. Nova Scotia, hello. I appreciate all the kind comments, you guys. And
Here, real quick, you guys, if you have any more questions for Maggie, I told her she could come
Oh, yeah.
back in.
Let's go walk out and
Yeah.
say hi to the log barn, because we did have, oh, I know, we did have questions of, are we gonna restore any more old buildings? Maggie! So let's go walk out there and see. And yes, George, what were you doing?
This is not wheat that is making it in the supply system.
This is drained wheat from
Yep.
the bottom of a combine.
Yep. So this is not for food, but this is what.
This is how our kids entertain themselves. We have hand-cut blocks and wheat. The toys of history, right? But okay, so yes, the building that we most want to renovate next, and we have wanted to renovate it for years, is the log barn. I'm going to try and walk backwards and see if I can show it to you. But you can see it in the background there. That is a massively huge log barn built when this place was first homesteaded, late 1800s, turn of the century. And it is so beautiful. I bet a third of the logs are rotten, which would be a real challenge. But the biggest part that's the tough side for us is the scale. It is huge. I mean, this thing is 100 feet long, and it's not just 20-foot logs on the side. I think they're 30 feet, which those are massive trees. These were the old growth first trees when people came to Montana. And so we just don't have trees like that. I mean, there's only a handful of really good fir trees on the ranch. We might just use pine when we finally do this. But yeah, this is on our list as soon as we have a spare, 50 grand kicking around.
Can we show them what?
Huh. Calvin says, it's so awesome that you all are learning and keeping the ways of the past. I appreciate that very, very much. Thanks for hanging on, you guys. I don't know, Robbie's out there with the kids. Rob, you coming back? I'll walk you guys around. These are actually giant totes that we store the grain in, and that keeps mice and anything out of them, where a grain bin, our old grain bins at least, might get, oh good, we're back, cool. Our old grain bins might get mice in them, these won't. And for selling wheat berries and food grade flour, we have to have way higher standards.
Yeah.
Way higher standards.
We want people to know that their food is safe. So the first day on, really my first farm job, we were cleaning out the grain bin to haul to town, and I asked there's a little bit of rotten grain at the bottom of the bin, and I asked the farmer, I said, how much of this goes to town? What do you determine? And my boss said, if you will eat it, put it on the truck.
If you
don't
won't,
want to eat it, don't put it on the truck. So that's kind of our rule here, is if it's questionable, we have other uses for stuff. So
yeah.
you have to keep in mind, it's what you want is what other people will want. So
Right. And that's part of why we've gone to that extra trouble with clean rooms and grain storage, is it has to meet a higher standard.
yep.
As much as this ranch, we have to usually get by on a shoestring, there's places where you don't cut corners. And food grade things, yeah, that's a big one.
And in America, we've talked about this last time, but we rarely in America worry. Yeah, you might go out to a questionable fast food restaurant every
Right.
now and again, but our food is so safe in America.
Yeah.
As far as being diseased and
It's one of those things, like, it's a reality of modern manufacturing and food factories, is that we're very lucky in the sense that we don't worry about getting sick like that from the food we buy at stores. So, because in history you did. I mean, meat butchering and all that, there was a time that was a really sketchy trade. But what we've lost in all of our safe, efficient food is the flavor, the connection with people, you know, and so there has to be some sort of middle ground. And I think that's where our farm is trying to find that. So, you know, still meeting all the modern safety, but having real food that isn't highly processed. Yeah, safe, but maybe at some point not food anymore, you know? But yeah, are your flowers available in Virginia? I ordered from your shop. Thank you for ordering. So far our flowers are available through us. We ship them, we bag it, we do all of it, just the two of us. And then it's available in Lewistown at Town and Country, which is really exciting. And hopefully we might expand, you know, a little bit more in Montana, but we're gonna keep this really small.
We don't want flower. We have an interest in it, and we're starting to develop a passion for it. We don't want it to be our full-time job. We've got
Right.
other interests, whether it's YouTube, producing that, whether it's restoring buildings, farming, driving the tractors, all of that stuff. So we don't want to be a big business in terms of the flower. We don't want to be.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point. We don't want to
It's
be a giant
supplement, not a-
corporation.
Yeah.
Like, there's enough of that in the world. I don't think we need any more of it. We want to be something small. And hi, Donna, over in Wales. That's awesome. I wish I could ship it to the UK. The problem with flour is it's really heavy.
It's dense.
It's very dense. And we tried shipping to Canada, and to be honest, shipping to the UK was way easier than shipping to Canada. Canada has a lot of restrictions. You cannot ship wheat berries because, of course, there's a lot of grain farming, and
Yep.
they want to protect
There's
disease from
and-
coming in.
Yep.
But also, you know, with tariffs and politics, which we won't get into, we just got absolutely clobbered by tariffs when we tried to send stuff to Canada. So, yeah, no international for the moment, but yeah. And yes, commercial food has chemicals in it, so it's safe in one way and not at all
Yeah.
safe in the other. I
Yeah.
agree. Yeah. My husband joined me. How many acres of hay and how many cattle? You're not allowed to ask a rancher that. You can't ask that.
No, so there are.
I'm just joking with
There
you.
are questions. As people in production ag, an inappropriate question is to say how many acres do you have, how many cows do you have. That's just, but I'm willing to answer that. We currently don't have any cows. We have 2 bottle calves. Because of our current situation and our interest, animals really aren't on the top of that. So we lease out all the pasture to a couple different local ranches. We put up all our hay ourselves, and we sell all that. We got 2 bottle calves at the moment.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting thing to talk about. This ranch is mostly hay.
And it's grass. So we're in an area that produces a lot of grass, a lot of hay. It's not really flat ground. It's not easy to farm, but in the right way, you can produce quite a bit if you're willing to work for
Yeah,
it.
and that's part of the rotational sort of cycle of the land is the hay fields last, what, 20, 30
Well,
years?
no.
Not
They
that
shouldn't. We do.
They shouldn't, but
Hay-
that's how long
hay
they've
should
lasted.
So our hay fields should be renovated every 7 to 8 years, and whatever. And then we'll
yeah.
put it into a grain crop for 2 to 3, maybe 4 years, and then go back to hay, and that gives that alfalfa. This is a science class for today. Alfalfa produces autotoxins, and so it's a way to keep the plants from overpopulating, I guess. Anyway, so you have to plow it up, and you have to make sure the alfalfa plants are dead for quite a while before you go back in and see fresh alfalfa. So to answer your question real quick, we have about 500 acres of tillable land that we till. The rest of the ranch is in pasture, and we can run about, in the summer, we can pasture about 125 to 150 cow calf pairs. So about 300 animals,
Yeah.
half of that being cows, half of that being calves.
Yeah,
So that's what this ranch will.
and it's a
Run in a year.
multi-generation ranch, so it's not like we own, 2,000 acres of land.
No,
It's
no.
a family ranch, and it takes all the different generations working on it and working together to kind of make it
When
stay
I was a kid,
alive.
it was our place. It was not our place. We lived here, and my grandparents owned it, but it was always our place. And so it's something that rolls off your tongue that, as far as Jesse's saying, it's not we own a little bit of land on our own, but as far as this, it's not technically our place.
Yeah.
More information than necessary.
But we do the work on it.
Yep.
And so it's an interesting thing, and that's why we're able to grow this wheat. Is as those fields come out of hay and they need to be renovated, that's a perfect time to take a field that has been just kind of doing its thing for years. It's not heavily sprayed with anything, nothing like that, and we can take that, till that up, plant a really good crop that can access all the nutrients that have been waiting, and then after a few years, it goes back to hay, and so it just goes into being
Yeah.
kind of
And
natural land.
We're in a hilly enough area where we farm that soil erosion through water runoff is a huge problem. So as long as you have hay growing there, the root mass, it's a perennial, it's always there. We have virtually zero erosion. You start to plow it up, and if you plow it long enough, 5-10 years, you start to create washouts. You start to have
Yeah.
ditches form,
Yeah.
sort of stuff, and that. So we really 2 to 3, maybe 4 years is about what we'll push before it goes back into hay.
Yeah.
For about 7 to 10 years, hopefully.
And not to end on a hot note, but this is where people who are really into organic farming, and we have good friends who are pure organic and have been for years, and I have a lot of respect for it. So I'll say that. But we've gotten questions on our site of, are you certified organic? Are you pure organic? And the reason we are not is because we don't want to create all that erosion. Because basically, if all your tools are tilling, which is what organic farming often is, you really only have one tool in your bag, and that's tilling the ground. At least here, where we don't have a lot of rainfall, cover cropping is very difficult in an arid climate. So being pure organic here would just wreak havoc on the soil. And so for the sake of the soil here, we attempt to do a lot more no-till, and we don't spray to excess. We don't do anything like that. This crop has never had anything sprayed on it, but pure organic we are not.
Yeah. The other aspect to that too is in the hay fields. All we'll ever do in the hay fields, I don't know, every 3 to 4 years we do soil samples, and we'll add back to the soil what some of the hay takes out. So none of our hay's ever sprayed. We have no reason to spray chemicals. And to be honest, we don't really have the opportunity to spray chemicals because you have grasses and legumes, and you've got broadleafs and grasses growing, and you would kill either or both
Right.
if you wanted to do that.
So and this is where
And on top of that, to finish on that too, is hay fields, for the most part, do a really good job of outcompeting weeds.
Right.
So then if we can farm for 2 to 3 years, we don't have the weed pressure that people who have. I've been on farms that fields have been farmed every year, and I say farmed, they've had crops growing on them for every year for over 100 years.
Yeah.
You go to Iowa, it's the same. I mean, it's 200 years. So for us, we can get a lot of that weed mitigation done through rotating back to hay,
right.
and we don't
And
have the same weed pressure when we go back to a grain
That's where
crop.
it's worth talking about. There are farms in different parts of this country that can be pure organic and be really successful. And then you get farms with different climates. You know, Montana is a super harsh place. So for us, pure organic looks very different than it might in other part of the country. Or regenerative practices. You know, we have a lot of friends who do regenerative ag, and those are more the principles we're behind as far as do the best thing for the land. Now, I will say, most farmers do the best thing for their land. Nobody's out there spraying for kicks. Nobody buys too much chemical just to do it. So, you know, farmers in this country, I think they often get a bad rap from marketing departments, but farmers are out there doing their very best to grow your food, with the exception of some of your giant, like, ethanol producing corporations. I'm not going to protect them. But your family farmers are out there doing the very best they can. And, you know, I'd say that's where we fit in.
Yeah.
I love Adventures of Six. I love that you have your before bed routine with our videos. That means a lot. That means a
Well,
lot.
we have our before bed routine with other videos. The kids love to watch cooking shows, so there's some British cooking shows.
We love British cooking
They all
shows.
crawl into bed. There's a canoer. There's a guy that canoes in northern Ontario, Lost Lakes, I
Yeah.
believe this is.
It's like
we love watching that. We have no
2
connection
hour,
to that.
2 hour canoeing episodes
Yeah.
that we're never gonna go canoe the lakes
Yep.
of Canada with 2 little kids,
Yep.
but we can just disappear into
Yep.
that. And so, yeah, I hope you guys get a similar amount of enjoyment getting to be on a Montana ranch for a short time. But your fingers don't have to bleed out in a snowstorm or anyway. But we should probably wrap it up. We could yap on forever, but I really appreciate all of you who've been here for this live. This is really cool. It's only the second one we've ever done. Sorry, there've been, hiccups and things like that with Wi-Fi. Technology is always a stretch for us. I will show you, Robbie's calling the kids. I will show you our map of the ranch that I painted. So if you look at this, there's actually more of the ranch on the other side of the highway here, but that little cabin right there, that's Uncle Dan's. And then these are the roads. That's the old railroad trestle. And then this right here, that's the shop we're in as I'm talking to you. There's our white pickup truck. There's Grandma and Grandpa's house. That's the old log barn. And you can see there's a falling down grain silo and an old butchering barn from back when the railroad was around. And there's elk up in the corner. Anyway, this was my present to the family when I was newly married into it. But it's part of the romance of a ranch. It's not a rich ranch. It's not a poor ranch. We're just right in the middle trying to get by. And we sure appreciate you guys being a part of it. All right, can you guys say goodbye? George has found mud. Thank you, George. Nice, can you say bye?
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, you two. Mama.
Bye.
Feel my